play with fire, do think twice. And if you get burned, baby, don't you be surprised. All right. Let's see. Welcome everyone to another episode of Web3 Social Club. We're waiting for a few more speakers to join, and speakers, if you're up, feel free to request a mic so it can bring you on. See, Big Time is here. We're super excited to have you here, and Sunny from ShowMe and Quest 3. Maximilian from also from ShowMe NFT. All right. Okay, and I see Xerox Boba is also here. Let me approve you all. Awesome.
Good morning. Good morning. Thanks for having me out today.
Good morning. Yeah. Let's see. So we have is it, Matt speaking from Big Time.
This is Matt from Big Time.
Okay. Cool. Awesome. All right. Let me tune down the music. Hope everyone enjoys a little bit of the summer vibe here. All right. And for all of our other speakers, let's see. I think EchoVerse, Cindy, if you can request the mic, that would be great. Otherwise, yeah, I think we'll very soon to kick off tonight's space. And also, good morning and good afternoon to our speakers and listeners dialing in from all around the world.
It is a good morning for me here. I'm calling in from just outside of Austin in Texas.
Oh, cool.
And it is
10 o'clock.
About 9 o'clock. It is
9
not yet
o'clock.
on fire yet, so we will take this as a win.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for dialing in so early. All right, I think let's get started. Thank you everyone for joining us at Web3 Social Club. So this is a Twitter Space series hosted by Mask Network, where we invite projects and builders of the next generation social networks and infrastructure to share their insights. I'm your host today, Hannah. I lead growth at Mask Network. So for those of you who are dialing in from throughout other channels who are not familiar with us, we're a social infrastructure project that bridges Web 2 and Web 3 to build an open internet with the mission to give data ownership back to the users. So we do so through first a browser extension and mobile application that integrates Web3 dApps seamlessly on a lot of traditional social media like Twitter. And also today we just announced the public beta testing of our open source digital identity aggregation protocol called NextID for building self-governed identity across Web 2 and Web 3. So that's like a brief intro about Mask, but we're really here to use this as a space to discuss hopefully more interesting in-depth conversations about the Web3 evolution, and especially in the social realm, the critical topics that we should think about to move the industry forward. And so when we talk about Web3, one critical component is definitely NFT in the form of, like PFPs, gaming assets, passes, etc. And we've seen a lot of NFT projects serving really as new cultural icons and statements in this new age cyber society. And it has also been a huge lever in onboarding more people to Web3 compared to previously DeFi serving even a much more niche audience. And its impact, as we see, has grown beyond just Web3 native circle. More brands are looking into NFT products, and governments around the world are seeking to use NFT and digital collection to develop their digital kind of art and collection industries around the world. And even just recently, Shanghai, like China's, Shanghai's government has announced some policies on developing the NFT industry. So we'll see how that goes. But at the meantime, we're in a bear market where we see like the price of some of the top blue chip NFTs are taking a dip, and this is really the time we hope to reflect on the value and utility of NFTs and their various paths forward. So with that, I'm super excited to have a wide variety of speakers with us today to discuss their take on NFTs value beyond art and collectibles and how we can develop an NFT in the bear market. So let me introduce our speakers with us today. So we have Maximilian from ShowMe NFT and Sunny from Quest 3 as the head of growth. And we have Matt from Big Time, the guild manager of Big Time, and 0x Bobity, who is a Web3 native writer and also a researcher and investor at Dragonfly Capital. And we also went to Harvard together, so really excited to have you here. And then last but not least, we have Cindy from as the founder of EchoVerse NFT. So welcome, everyone.
Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you, Hannah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So why don't we maybe go around and love to hear from you, like a quick intro about yourself and your project, and if it's relevant, like how does like NFTs like play in your line of work. Maybe we can start with Andy.
Yeah, so guys, this is Boba. I've been in crypto in 2017, but I got into NFTs sort of at the tail end of DeFi summer, wash trading, unwearable. And then I got into Axie Infinity sort of just by surfing through some like Discord servers like September of 2020. I flipped a bunch of Mystic Axies, became the community ambassador for Sky Mavis, working very closely with Alexander, so she's like Psychow and then Jiho, mainly in the Asia, sort of like China area. And then I sort of sold all of my Axies when AXS was at like 120, and then I moved into like all the other NFTs, so punks and apes. So I was probably one of the earliest members of Bored Ape Yacht Club, and now I'm mainly Azuki Maxi, also looking at Doodles and CloneX, and sort of helping the space forward at Harvard as one of the founding members of the Blockchain Club, doing a lot of writing for Web3, and while working at Dragonfly Capital, which is a VC firm looking at Web3 and NFTs.
Great to have you here, Boba. And I have to say, back when I studied at Harvard, there was like no blockchain club, and now it's like thriving. And I wish I were born a few years later, catch the waves earlier with alongside with Boba. By the way, he writes the most interesting pieces I've seen in Web3. So if you haven't followed Boba's writing, go ahead. It's very fun reflections about the industry. And next, maybe Matt, do you want to introduce yourself and also Big Time to our audience? A lot of us have definitely know about Big Time. We would love to hear from you.
Yeah, first of all, there's a lot of Harvard people on here, and this makes me uncomfortable because I'm a big smooth. I'm a big smooth.
Yeah, we were all Web3ers here.
This is not good. Wait, are you guys all going to school there right now?
Oh no. I graduated a while back. Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. All right, thank God. It was like if you guys are all like students there, then I think the most prudent career advice I can give you is to drop out immediately. In the lines of like Mark Zuckerberg. But anyways,
yeah.
So Big Time, Big Time Web3 game, similar kind of vein of like trying to transition Web2 gamers into Web3. We have a light touch of NFTs inside the game right now. Basically, our cosmetic skins inside the game are the NFTs. And then when we're still in an alpha right now, but when we transition to full functionality of the game, you're going to be able to craft and make your own cosmetic NFTs inside the game as well. We will have a token, but it's a little bit different functionally speaking than AXS, similar to SLP in that regard. But the true identity of the game lies in the fact that it is, in fact, a game. And so we tried to significantly lower barriers to entry, make it a lot easier for people who are not exactly Web3 friendly or Web3 savvy to start playing the game. And then in action style, it's similar to Diablo and World of Warcraft. So we think it's part of a larger transition of Web 2 games incorporating blockchain in a way that is pretty different from the way it's been done in the past couple years.
Yeah, it's super exciting to hear the latest updates from Big Time, and yeah, excited to chat more about like gaming and NFTs with you tonight, Matt. Yeah, and next up, we have Sunny from Quest 3.
Thank you, Hannah. Yeah, this is Sunny from Quest3. Thank you for the invitation from Moscow Network. So here's an introduction about Quest3. Quest3 is a quest and event dApp where users can earn tokens and NFT badges by participating quests and events. You could think it's like an on-chain solution of Gleam. Yeah. Well, in the long run, Quest3 is going to be the Web3 native advertising platform. And also glad to meet you guys here. Also, Big Time, man. I think maybe we have communicated before in the Telegram channel. And also, Hannah, really glad to meet you guys here. And well, yeah, let's talk more about NFT and other scenarios in this AMA. Yeah. Thank you. Back to the host.
Yeah, thank you, Sunny. Always fun to have you on the space. Yeah. And next up, we have Maximilian from ShowMe NFT.
Yeah, so thanks for having me as well. Thanks for the invitation. You can call me Max also if that's easier. So I'm Max. I'm the global BD manager at ShowMe, which is an NFT subscription social network that gives communities, projects, DAOs, KOLs, and people like you and me the opportunity to create clubs in order to get in touch with the user base or fan base, or just to connect with like-minded people. And currently, we offer 3 different subscription types on the platform, which are 3 free. 2,000 clubs that are currently existing has their own unique NFT membership card, and with our more than 50,000 users, they're also able to trade and sell these on platforms like, for example, OpenSea. Yeah. So yeah, that's it about ShowMe. We'll go into more detail later on. Back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Max. Excited to learn more about like NFTs applications on ShowMe with you today. Yeah, and last but not least, we have Cindy from EchoVerse.
Hi everyone, this is Cindy from EchoVerse. So yeah, about EchoVerse, we are a cute social simulation game to farm, decorate, craft, socialize, and earn. So think of us as Animal Crossing but on blockchain. We have a social component, that is, we really wanted to encourage people to play the game, to bring the friends with you to the game together. So we actually designed the gameplay and also through our community building in order to have this interesting social component. And of course, if you click into our homepage, you can see an illustration of our game that's in kind of a unique sort of healing 3D art style. So we hope that EchoVerse can bring something new, whether art or technology or the community, to the Web3 world. And currently, our team is focusing on launching the Genesis Islands. And with the islands, you will be able to unlock premium features in the game and to have your data on-chain and being able to socialize or visiting each other's island. So yeah, it's great to be here, and thank you so much for our invitation.
Yeah, thank you, Cindy. Yeah, we're excited we definitely want to talk more about like kind of social and NFTs and how these two things are interwoven and can develop more use cases down the road. Yeah, so let's kick off the conversation. I think I want to get some of your reactions and thoughts on your take on the current kind of the market, given the different circumstances. How do you see the market is taking an impact on NFTs, like for the communities that you're part of? Like, what's the sentiment? Are buyers still interested? And I'm just curious, like what you are up to in terms of reacting to the current market environment.
I can probably jump off with this one. And I'll speak somewhat narrowly about what NFTs inside of games are kind of going through right now. I would say that the term NFT and crypto right now is a terrible message to about 20% of gamers out there right now, in kind of rough approximate numbers. And right now the bear market is not helping that. So it's a pretty tough like messaging standpoint, and that's because at least from what I've been able to observe, a substantial amount of that negative reaction is driven by somewhat uninformed or anecdotal evidence of people not liking NFTs in some other capacity. They saw crypto prices, or they knew somebody who went through some tough losses. So it's made it somewhat difficult to sell big time or talk about big time as a purely blockchain type game. So what we've had to do at Big Time, at least, is to kind of like alter the language. Big Time was always meant to stand on its own, even if the user didn't want to partake in any type of blockchain. It had to be a fundamentally fun and enjoyable experience, an immersive game, even without that. And so it's somewhat easy for us to pivot on that message and be like, hey, you should play Big Time because it's a fun game and because you own your stuff inside of it, not just because it has NFTs and that's hot right now. And so that's how we've been able to kind of adjust. On the kind of more positive standpoint, the bear market is a challenging time for a lot of people. If anything, it's almost like a low grade fire that removes detritus from out there. There were some terrible NFT projects out there, and they needed to kind of be removed from the field. And if anything, this is a growth period, and so we see this as like an opportunity to keep growing, to reach out to people who are not already in Web3, and to kind of keep capitalizing on the technological benefits that blockchain can provide to users in itself.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I can come at this issue from maybe like not so much gaming, but like a more just NFTs in general standpoint. If you guys go to ultrasound.money and we look at sort of the burn rate from EIP 1.59 for Ethereum, I think I'm not that bearish, right? If you look at the burn leaderboard, literally like the top is OpenSea Seaport, right? At like 2,000 ETH for like a 7-day time frame. And then you scroll down and you look at burn categories, right? NFTs, like in the last 7 days, last week or so, actually it was like contributed to 45% of the burn. So I think the truth is no one else is doing anything else besides trading NFTs in the bear market, right? People are transferring ETH, of course, but if you add up DeFi and L2s, like they don't even come close to NFT burning. So I actually think this bear market, a lot of bad narratives and a lot of like bad NFT projects got washed out. But like clearly, I think capital is consolidating in sort of the top, I think, blue chip leaders and industry leaders in the space. And I think this is a really good thing as we sort of enter the next leg up here. Yeah.
Yeah, really impressive data from Boba Tea. I think many projects have been affected, both good and bad. Actually, for me personally, I think this is a good opportunity to buy some blue chips because I have already bought some doodles. Yeah, I have also see Howard is in this AMA and he's in charge of the like operation of doodles. So really glad to meet you guys here. But for many like NFT projects, the situation maybe is not so good. And recently, besides apart from doodles, I also buy some mimic and there's verse. You could see my avatar is mimic cat, and these projects have really good community building and super for long term holding. And as for our part, maybe I could introduce more interesting part from Quest3. Quest3 is exploring many NFT scenarios, especially SBT, that is soul bound NFT. We'll think about that SBT will be very valuable in the future, and when people complete a specific task or quest on Quest3, and we will issue an SBT to the user, and this SBT are not untransferable and can always exist as tags. We could see that in the Web2 advertising platform, there are many tags that can be used as filter and filter conditions when people go to advertise. And in the Web3 advertising platform, the value of SBT lies in this. So we do hope to see not only the POAP like NFT, we could see more interesting use cases, scenarios for NFT in the future. Yeah.
Well, I guess for us, the EchoVerse team does view this current circumstance both a challenge and also a opportunity, because when we first started the project, we are actually I realized that we were actually very optimistic about the market, and everyone was so excited about all the projects evolving every day, and we see that a lot of friends they follow each project, and like every few days the focus completely shifts. Everyone was so busy chasing the trend, and we also as a team we did a lot of marketing, like reach out to KOLs, and yeah, a lot of marketing stuff. But when the when the bear market started, I think that's when we see the significant drop, not only in the engagement on Twitter or Discord, for almost all the projects, but also we just realized that like a lot of people just leave, and they even they don't talk about it. They stop trading NFTs as well. Many people left, but those who stayed, whether builders or the community members, I believe that they have stronger beliefs in Web3 and NFTs, and also for the teams who stay in the space, that's the time that we all seriously sit down and to think about what kind of product that we are actually building, and what kind of experience that we actually provide to our users, or in our case, the players. And I view that level of thought really valuable, and it's actually great for long-term development of Web3 trend. So yeah, EchoVerse does view this as an opportunity, and we believe that we are gonna have a even better product at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I also agree with the others and the things that were mentioned. I think that the current market, the bear market, is not only due to the fact that of the current downturn of the economy, because it's not so strictly tied to it. But as I think Sunny mentioned it, there were a lot of projects, even the big projects, that have experienced major downturns as well. For example, Bored Ape Yacht Club or CryptoPunks, especially now in May. I think they had a 92% decline in daily sales compared to September. But as I mentioned, I don't think this is just due to the market situation right now, but also because of maybe all the NFT scams that happened, all of the cyber attacks that we've seen in the last couple months. And yeah, I think as it was mentioned before, right now is also the time for big chances and opportunities, and it really also helps us to distinguish between the big and the great projects and the smaller ones, or the ones that are not so serious about creating, and those also vanished in the last couple weeks and months. So yeah. We ourselves, we haven't been so much affected by it, because mostly when we are working with NFTs, it's mostly proof of attendance, and these tend to not to be sold so much, so they will just remain in the people's wallets. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you all for like a very great input. I think coming from like different angles, from like the gaming side, and also for Boba from like a lot of the data, and seeing like kind of how capital are consolidating around NFTs. And yeah, like I resonate with what Sunny was talking about, kind of adding the more social elements, and buying like NFTs that we truly enjoy. We both have the same PFPs because the cats are just too cute. And I think like what Max was saying, and I like what Cindy mentioned, in terms of like kind of like how do we measure the success of NFT collections, and also like Amon, like this is the time where I think the truly valuable and thoughtful projects will stand out, and then the more so like kind of a short term speculative projects that will get washed out. So today our topic is also on like kind of going beyond just arts and collectibles, or kind of like just a pure investment side. I want to like learn from you more in depth. Like, what do you think, or like, how would you define an NFT project to be successful? What are the I think the key attributes that you look for in general, or like more specifically in your domain? Yeah.
Yeah, I
Wait, you
think I
want to
can
start?
start if nobody wants to talk.
I'll
So
follow up
yeah, I'll
after that.
start.
I can chime in.
Okay, perfect. Okay, then I'll keep it quick. So whenever buying NFTs, I think I read this report a couple months ago, and I'm always thinking about it. I focus on 4 to 5 main key points, and the first one is the people behind the project. So, what people created the project, what people founded the project, how are they acting, what kind of experience do they have, and what's also really important to me is there the possibility to really interact with them on social channels. Can I talk to them personally and see what kind of art they're doing or what they have done in the past? Secondly, the project timeline. So I always wanna know what kind of plans they have for the future, because this kind of ensures me whether the project has thought of its future and not only focuses on the short term and the money part. Thirdly is the quality of the art. And I think perception is very subjective. So aesthetically pleasing is not always popular, but I also think that you have to like the art if you want to buy it, because if the project doesn't turn out to be very popular in the end, you might be the only holder owner for its lifetime. So I think that's also something that I always keep in mind. And then the next one is community. So I think, yeah, it was mentioned before that the community is also very important, because if you don't have the people that really trust you and that really focus on your project and help you to further build it and spread the news, I think that also makes up a big part of your project and helps you to yeah, something useless laying around.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I think we
totally.
go on. You got it.
It's okay. It's okay. Go on. Go on.
And I mean, a lot of what I was going to say was a similar realm of really trying to focus on utility. I think kind of the last year and a half or so, where profile pictures and artwork has somewhat dominated the lexicon of NFTs. I think those days are still here, but I think the next wave of like utilities or excuse me, of NFTs is going to be based around utility. You have to be able to use it for something. And I think generally speaking, like the utility you're going to be able to get from an NFT has to outweigh the kind of inconvenience of acquiring it for a new user. So if you go through the process of like converting somebody who has spent no time in Web3 or possibly has mistrust of it to getting into NFTs, um, they need to be able to have some sort of more tangible benefit from it. I think that most of the people who were kind of comfortable with almost like a day trading style of using NFTs is I wouldn't say it's completely over, but it's certainly going to go through a challenging time, and it's something that people are going to have to battle against in the future. as we transition out of the bear market. But generally speaking, I think every kind of major business is going to move towards some sort of incorporation of NFT type technology. And if those industries are not moving that way, then they probably need to kind of reevaluate their future as a business, because there's a way to incorporate these digital assets into almost everything that we do, even things that are purely in real life and have like physical like attributes, like they can be improved or maximized in some way by you incorporating blockchain. So that's what I kind of look for in terms of like utility. Like, is it doing something new? Is it making it easier for users to use it? Or, just that general formula, does it provide more utility than the inconvenience of getting it?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think utility, the word itself, like sometimes I try to avoid that because it seems that especially in the bull market, a lot of projects just try to sell the NFTs and then try to come up with some kind of roadmap and claim that it's the utility. And in my opinion, like how you're gonna use NFTs, why you're selling a collection of NFTs, the reason should be very clear from day one. It's not that you do NFT for the sake of NFT, but it's actually because the technology of NFT, like the usage of NFT, it actually has a value in the ecosystem or on your product of in your product. So that's why I would first look at if the whole product will actually make sense. And I do agree with Big Time that yeah, like I would always prefer if a project can tell me what kind of innovations it's bringing to the space, not just following other projects. Even for the PFPs, we do see that those that last longer are usually the ones that bring either the new art style or technology or a standard to the broader NFT community, rather than say if like one project that's like in the Q style prevalent becomes prevalent, or like women NFTs become popular, then like you'll see like a lot of projects will follow. And I think another common example is that we have this like similar kind of projects evolving, like emerging quickly after, say, like a collection becomes phenomenal. And those projects that follow usually only last like not over a week. So I think it's really important, whether for PFPs or for, say, like a GameFi project, to bring something new to the whole NFT community.
Yeah, I can pick this question up. I think I'm uniquely suited to answer this question because I'm actually like a degen mentor. So I would like, do botting, and I would, get the free mints and stuff, like in hopes of turning a profit. So first I want to say, I think the space is still very vibrant. There's a lot of money on the sidelines, as we saw with the GameStop marketplace. I think in the past day or so, they did more than $2 million of revenue, which is crazy because they don't have any like ETH collections that we're talking about, because they're on Loopring, right? They're on an L2. So I think also I recently did this post where let me try to send it to the. Can I send stuff to the spaces?
Yeah, I think so. Can you?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah, go.
basically, yeah.
You
If you
can
look at
pin stuff. Yeah.
the graph here, this is a graph from Nansen. So it pretty much shows that, like, I think for the top like 10% of NFT traders that they label as smart money, they consistently are in profit. So I think there's a lot of like opportunity here to outmaneuver. So what I look for mostly is sort of community engagement, like in my alpha groups. Like, I would just ask people like what they think about this, or have they heard about this, and usually like that filters out a lot of the bad mints. And then I look at the data, right? I definitely like have to look through the smart contract to make sure it's not a rug. Like, you guys would be surprised like how many projects are straight up like scams and rugs. But I think if you mint from their contract and you can look through it and it's open source, it's usually good to go. And I try to look at the team. If I'm degen minting, of course, like, the team just has to be like semi decent, or they have like some like Web2 artists who has a little bit of fame, and there's like some story that they're doing that, or some way they're pushing the space forward. That's very important for me. Um, but for my longer term holds though, like Azuki or Doodles, or like Clonex, or like art blocks. Like I'm a big art blocks guy. Like I have um like meridians, like anticyclones, and I have squiggles. I think the idea is that you have to be like building some sort of brand or some sort of IP, right? Like you want to be building this like interactive, like storytelling sort of like universe, right? Like Doodles is doing like with Pharrell Williams and Doodles 2 and their whole like expansion. While I think bringing back value and utility, like in the form of like not only like cash flow, right, potentially for Doodles 2 to the royalties, but also like a sense of belonging, or like connecting like-minded holders who also believe in the future of this project together, right? And finally, I think just also the team, right? If you look at, if they have like previous project experience, if they come from DeFi, if they come from big tech, or how's the artist, like is the artist like sort of established in the industry, like Azuki, Steamboy, which is the artist for Azuki, like Artem Sung, he was the creative art director for Overwatch. So I think if you just do a lot of reading in the space, you will be able to outperform other people because you have that alpha. A lot of people just like DJ it, and they can't control themselves, and they just mint whatever they see for free and try to make it big, and that's like sort of your opportunity to capitalize.
Are you telling me I have to do my own research? Is that what you're telling me to do right now? This is
Yes,
mind blowing.
like the truth is, to be a good NFT trader, you have to read a lot. That's sort of the secret weapon.
I
You
feel
have to
like I've
also
never
use
heard this
Twitter
before.
a
This is
lot.
fantastic.
You have to shit
Yeah.
post on Twitter, and you have to read a lot. That's sort of the two secret weapons there.
They don't. This is what they're teaching at Harvard. I can tell. Gaming. I think that there's a very logical connection between blockchain technology and in-game utility. In some regards, it's almost been inevitable that these in-game assets were going to move on chain, right? In-game economies have been functioning very well at high levels on the internet for like 20 years. Even those economies in terms of complexity almost outpace the style of the gameplay, and it almost makes sense for those in-game gold or characters or cosmetics or whatever it was to be on chain, right? Because people were already transacting them, whether it was illicit or not inside the game's kind of rules and marketplace. It was already happening, right? Those black markets, as we know, are going to always emerge anytime there is supply and demand out there, whether or not there's a regulation surrounding it. So I think it's kind of easy there. In games, it looks like characters or weapons or skins or some sort of in-game asset. That's utility inside of GameFi. I think the overall term of like what does utility look like, is going to vary by industry, right? Like I was just reading something recently about one of the diamond companies or something like that that's out there and mining, and they decided to put kind of high resolution images on NFTs for the diamonds that you buy, so you can see kind of all the imperfections inside of it. I don't think anybody would have thought of that as something that would be realistic, 10 years ago, or somewhere around the advent of like blockchain. So everybody kind of needs to move in that direction because there's just so much to be gained from it.
Yeah, I agree. I think utility for games. Well, right now, like people might think about, oh, that's the ability of profiting from, like, say, owning an NFT asset or something like that. But it's really, at the end of the day, it should be like how playable and like how fun the game is. And I'm actually seeing the trend out there. It's slowly evolving such that at first we see like a lot of projects, especially like made by like pure DeFi team maybe last year. A lot of them are just number games, and it's not fun. People play the game just to make money, and I don't think that's the future, or like how like the gamify should actually look like. But instead, I think in the future, players would join like those gamified projects play those blockchain games because it's actually fun, and it has a lot of additional benefits in addition to like a traditional game. Say like it's interactive with like other gamified projects, and you can read from the on-chain data to import your say like your other NFT assets, something like that. And to our genre, or like a social simulation game specifically, I think one important utility is that for NFT is that you're able to customize your world pretty much. So it's open world, just like Minecraft, just in a different art style, and the ability to customize to suit your own preference is really important. Just think about like how much like variety, like variations you can build in this metaverse, and also well, I'd say like community is also very important. And it's also like, I guess, the hardest part of creating the gaming experience, because you cannot really control how other people do. And while you think about games that last really long, well, I asked around my friends like what kind of games they can play for years, and I got some answers like CS:GO or League of Legends from traditional gaming, and those games actually have a common trait, that is you actually play with friends. That's also one of the ideas of EchoVerse, is that you either bring your friends, your existing friends, to the game, or you can make friends from the game, or both. So I think, yeah, both like the playability of the game and also the level of community building all contribute to the utility of a gamified project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we've delved pretty deep into kind of what a utility means in gaming. So thank you, Matt and Cindy, for like kind of like elaborating on that. And in terms of, I think going beyond that, I know like Boba also tweeted about like kind of music NFTs. Like I know you have some takes on that, and also other like kind of cross section between NFT and different industries. So what are some of the interesting like new use cases that you've seen where like NFTs can grow beyond just like like a PFP or a set of investment? Or like
Okay.
if you have
Matt,
hot
are
takes
you okay
on.
if I go first,
Yeah,
or?
go for it.
Okay, great. So before I actually wanted to add something to GameFi as well, but I think we talked a lot, like almost too much about it now. But I think this sector definitely has a future. But like I personally see one of the main use cases of NFTs in the future as sort of a certification of authenticity in trade, for example, as a security for buyers. Another exciting idea I came across a couple of weeks or months ago was from a filmmaker. I think his name was Kevin Smith, where he plans to sell a new movie as an NFT. And in addition to the film, buyers will not only receive exclusive bonus material, but also the rights to use the characters within the movie. And I also have a lot of friends in the music industry, and I find these projects in the music sector quite interesting, where musicians sell shares of their songs and buyers can just play poker on possible hits, or maybe also just like acquire shares of a song by their favorite artist. So I think that's pretty cool. And the real main areas of applications, I think, are still in the future, and it will take some more time to be able to determine the limits and boundaries of use cases. I think PFPs, they will not be as popular in the next couple of years as they were in the last couple months, but they will still remain. And I think for us as a community within our platform or just within our team, it kind of shows us some like a feeling of togetherness. So I think that's something nice to have. I think that's also something that will remain. Another thing are POAPs. I don't think we've mentioned them before. which are also kind of nice because I think like every time I visited a crypto event, let's say in Amsterdam or London or wherever it was, every time I open up my wallet and I see this proof of attendance NFTs, I get reminded of the trips, and I think that's also something nice to have. Maybe not the one with the like biggest utility, but definitely nice to have by the side. Yeah.
Yeah, I think PFPs are sort of the first vertical in the space to find a good product market fit. But definitely, I totally agree with gaming, right? The Web3 elements of gaming. I think everyone's talked a lot about gaming, but like very quickly, there's just deeper liquidity in digital assets. So that means more players can be more keen to spend because you can just resell and buy something else or take that money out, right? Or there's emotional value because players can keep the item like forever as long as it's on the blockchain. And of course the open ecosystem or the composability aspect because NFTs allow for easy like reuse of assets. Like for example, you can potentially use like a Marvel NFT in big time. Of course, I don't know if they'll incorporate it, but um, also like ownership, right? Just digital ownership, like permanence, owning the digital assets for life. So even if the game dies, you can like maybe crowdsource like another game that uses the NFTs, right? And I think most importantly, like for the creator economy, the incentives are aligned. Of course, like which might take a lot of time, but like this is ultimately like the pipeline dream, right? I think besides gaming being like very like makes sense here, like music also makes sense because I think the future won't be that we're paying like micro cents on a song or we're like buying songs to listen, right? It will be free to stream, so you can just I mean everything is already pretty much free to stream, right? You can like listen to any song on YouTube without any cost. But I think what's important about music NFTs is that like the collector pieces, like the super fans, now have like like a unique way to support their favorite artists. So I think um, like right now, artists like don't know who their super fans are, right? Like even if you're like a pretty established musician, like you probably signed with a label, which is like not a good middleman, right? That you can easily get rid of by music NFTs. So if I do like an album NFT or like a collectible NFT, right? I will get to know who like collects these NFTs as an artist, and as a super fan, I can like support my artist directly. And even though like the content is free, just knowing that I'm a fan because of like how good their work is like very satisfying to me. So I think like definitely music NFTs will, I think next bull run with like a lot of the infrastructure getting like built out, like Beat Foundry. I think Audius is like not like like in a super great place right now, but I think next bull run all of these like new projects that like we are funding at Dragonfly, I think will start to look very very good. And lastly, I think writing NFTs as well. So I'm a writer, so I'm very biased about this, but my pieces are actually getting collected by people I don't know like on the internet because they like my writing and they want to support me, but they also want to say like, oh, um, I collected like Boba's piece when he was like just starting off, and each NFT is like $5. So like just to have that provenance to show that you were there, you were an OG, like having that status, right, is very important to a lot of people. And it's like not like status in like an egregious way where it's like, oh, I have a Lamborghini, so I flex on you. It's more like I appreciated this person's work and I was there first to support them like through their like career. And I think that has a lot of like emotional value, just for a lot of people. And as a writer, I actually earned, um, like I'm not that big of a writer as of yet, but I earned like $60 on my last piece, and that's a lot of money. Like I think like if I put out a piece like every week and I earn $60 a week, like that's not like that terrible, right? It's like a supplemental income. So I really do believe in the creative economy, like in the bear market as well, right? Like if ETH was at 4K, I would earn like $300 a week. So yeah, those are the different sort of like NFTs that I think are more interesting than just PFPs, right? And like or generative art.
I think it's an interesting way that you just described that because we were talking about, kind of like utility and the ways that you can use NFTs, and then it segued into like I made money off of this. And one of the things that's been kind of interesting to see in like a GameFi standpoint is like as you kind of increasingly detach NFTs from an in-game barrier to like entry, that there is almost two different camps of the way they want to use it. Some people just want to use GameFi as a way to make money, and others who want to like use it as a part of the game. And the two have some overlap, but it tends to be not that big. And if you kind of look at it as like a Venn diagram, that center in the middle of like somebody who wants to like make money while also using it for some sort of enjoyable experience, like a hobby, to enhance their gaming experience by using blockchain, it's not that big. And you have to kind of marry those two interests. And so, if you kind of looked at it like, some of the earlier Web3 games, a lot of people were just playing them because it was a steady stream of income. They were making $6 to $8 an hour, and that's basically why they were playing it. And in some ways, that's the same way we describe a job. It's like, it's not great. I don't love doing it in my free time, but it gives me kind of a steady stream of income, and it's scalable. And that's what I think kind of the next challenge is, of how do you build an NFT or Web3 ecosystem, and whatever it is that some people will use it for, kind of its inherent NFT value. That's hard. That's really hard. And I think that's kind of what everybody is struggling with through a bear market. It's like, how do you make the NFTs kind of stand on their own as opposed to something you can just use to like flip and make money?
Yeah, absolutely. Great points from both Boba and Matt. And I think to carry on this conversation, I think NFT is also cross-passing with the real world. A lot of is an attempt to kind of like, I think, stand its value, or like find more different interesting like use cases for this technology. So we're seeing like, NFTs are being minted as a proof for real estate. I personally I hold some digital village NFT for a village in Japan, and for like merchandise purchases. And there's also a lot of other like kind of maybe music concert scenarios. How do you see like NFTs like disrupt or interact with the real world commerce in the future, and maybe like especially in like retail and like in consumer front? Yeah, I'm curious to hear like if you have any thoughts on that.
So to clarify, you're saying like, how do you like consumers or like your average day person walking around like use NFTs in kind of a novel way?
That, yeah, and then also just we're seeing like kind of NFTs being also applied to like like both just like more traditional retail, and also to some like bigger ticket items, like they have the proof for like real estate, or kind of even ownership or residency, etc. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on like whether you see this as a trend moving forward, like how it like NFTs merge and interact with the IPs and consumer brands that we know, and among other applications.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of touched on it before, of like, I truly do believe that like every industry needs to put something on chain in order to kind of like function. And I think everybody kind of needs to be there within like 10 years. In a similar way, like 15 years ago, if you said, hey, every single company out there, from the mom and pop shop to the biggest company in the world, is going to have a Facebook and Instagram, a Twitter, a YouTube channel, whatever it may be, you probably would have laughed. But now it's like not so outlandish. Everybody has it, whether they kind of like it or not. And everybody engages on social media. It's just the way it's become. In a similar way, to maximize kind of the utility they can provide to their customers, or for using it themselves, they're going to want to do things on chain. What that looks like is going to vary significantly. One of the things I think is a challenge for the businesses themselves is the somewhat short, limited supply of blockchain developers. I look through a lot of like other Web3 games, and then like aspiring Web3 projects, and one of the consistent things I see on their job postings is blockchain developers, and it's somewhere along the lines of like they either need more of them or they need a lead one, and that's hard because it's a somewhat nascent kind of like capability. And as this audience, as I'm sure is aware, like blockchain developers were able to command some pretty high wages with relatively limited experience over the last couple of years. And there's a lag from when developers get there to when you see a launch. So you see it right now, like Web3 really took over a lot of developer talent in the last 2 or 3 years ago, and now a lot of those projects are starting to come online. And there's a lag for whenever the developers get there to like 2 or 3 years later, you start to see those the fruits of their labor kind of come to the forefront. So wherever it is, just realize like if you see a capability or an aspiration to move into chain, you're going to see the results of that in like 3 years.
Yeah, I also believe that there will be more and more such applications of NFTs where you combine online and offline. And I think there will be mass adoption in the upcoming few years. And when the Web2 people or like people who've never had NFTs before, when they look at those NFTs, they're going to be more open to NFTs who have a physical counterpart, or like where they can also have some like physical implications of like the product. And I think it's more a middle stage, because eventually when everyone is used to like owning NFTs, and they will eventually realize that the physical part, it's not necessarily for all NFTs. And but like I guess like from a projects or a team's perspective, it's easier to do marketing to promote NFT related products when they have like a physical like part of it. And I do think that at the beginning of this wave, there are going to be some challenges. For example, I've actually viewed some deals about or like some projects about using NFTs as a proof for like real estate or like for restaurant rent membership. And the enforcement part is going to be hard, because when you're offline, like in real life, you're gonna show some of your proofs that you actually own the NFT somewhere on blockchain. And that's why I think the infra or a lot of applications such as token proof will be popular. So that say if you go to event, you are like spending offline, like doing stuff, then you will have a proof that you can actually show in your real life.
Yeah, that's very well said, and I think that segues into the other part of our discussion. I want to get your input on is on the kind of the intersection between NFTs and social, and just overall kind of bringing reimagining kind of how like social interactions is like online and social connections are like. So we talked a lot about kind of utility and NFT alone, kind of its various ways forward. But yeah, for this particular space, we'll look to understand a bit more kind of how our like digital life or like our in real life are being changed by NFTs. So one question I had, like nowadays, like we're all wearing like putting on NFT POAPs and using them as part of our digital identity. And I think it's also becoming more of a social signal or a social capital that you can display to others. So beyond this level of, I guess, social signaling, what are some of your thoughts on like how NFTs can influence how people socialize with each other or make a social impact? What has been like your personal experience so far in terms of how buying, owning NFTs, trading NFTs changed your social experiences?
I think I can start here because I will start with the SocialFi perspective. So I think NFTs will definitely continue to serve as a status symbol for some more time for a lot of people, even if it's not the main use case in the future. But many of our friends and our partners use NFTs as their profile pictures, which from my point of view, serves as a good networking point of contact. So Often it's easier to get in touch with people if they own similar NFTs. And we ourselves as a team also use NFTs as profile pictures, for example, in Telegram groups, which in my eyes creates a feeling of togetherness, and not only for ourselves, but also when we are in exchange with other projects. And I just wanted to add something to the previous question, and also talk once more about communities. So I also think that the current like Web2 big social media projects, they also will need to add NFT features in order to stay and remain relevant in the future. And for us, I want to add one more thing to the point of like community, where we talked about it earlier. And when we think about building a community and accumulating users for our project, we primarily focus on Web2 and try to build bridges between the two worlds. And the migration to Web3 is in many areas, of course, long overdue, but the majority of the internet users today are just not familiar with the advantages of this new world. And by creating easy access and connection points and educating the people through talks and workshops like we do, we try to increase our range and build a reliable community. And I think in addition, we always what we do is we always try to reward all participants in the course of these lectures and events. And for this, we also we use proof of attendance NFTs, and we create them by ourselves or in combination with our partners. And owners of these can, among other things, receive whitelists in the future and in future campaigns, and thus remain with us. And I think that it really also helps us to get in touch with the people that are using our platform and to socialize even more. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I like the just kind of like Max, when you were talking about how communities are getting continuously built around kind of NFTs. And I'm curious if Boba, you're still online. You've been personally participating in so many different like alpha groups as NFT holder. Like, how's that experience? Like, how have you seen like your social interactions or kind of like connections changed? Or, like. I think he just dropped. Okay, hold on. Give me one sec. It's okay. Yeah, we'll see if he can. Okay, there you go.
Oh, sorry, my connection just dropped. I sort of missed the last 2 minutes.
Yeah. But Boba, do you have things or experiences you want to share about how like NFTs kind of like change impacts like your social connections and the communities you're involved with? How's that experience so far?
Yeah, I think communities are now like vertically sort of like integrated by and segregated by PFPs. So right now the experience though is very mid, I think, because once you get a PFP, what you do is you like join the Discord server, and then you like find the other people in the Discord server, and they set up like maybe like a Twitter group or whatever, and then you can start socializing from there. So I definitely think there needs to be like a way more like Web3 native way to socialize, right, with our online identities. I think where you could maybe sign a message through MetaMask with your NFT, and then like all of a sudden you have this like platform, right? But I still think currently like Web2 socials are just so sticky, right? Because the user experience is just so terrific, right? Like with Twitter now, like integrating the hexagon, like where you have that sort of digital like flex layer, so making it harder for new entrants like DSO or Lens Protocol to I think really do much here. Um, I think the main advantage for me though for like Web3 social is not sort of like NFT as a PFP. I think that's just like a very small part of it. What's powerful is sort of like ownership over your social graph, right? So if I have this network of people on Twitter, I can become platform agnostic, and I can like move based on my wallet. So I have my connections all in my wallet, and then I can move to different social platforms and sort of like to have that like consistent sort of like with different people, right? Because the reason that Web2 sort of monopolized into just like Twitter and Instagram is because there are very, very strong network effects for these social media, because once like people start going to one platform, they like sort of stay in that platform, right? So that's where their reach is. I think with Web3 social, what we'll see is a way more competitive landscape for developing these tools, and eventually I think we'll see way more like free competition and like better tools coming out in the future.
Yeah, that's very well put. To like kind of like touching upon the defining traits of Web3 socials, we're thinking about like kind of how do we, what aspect of user experiences are we really enhancing with, like creating the next generation of social networks. I think social graph like owning kind of data ownership, specifically around kind of identity ownership and kind of owning the social graph or interactions that you have with people is something really valuable and unique to the Web3 technologies we're seeing. And also, I think a few speakers talked about how sticky and how great the user experience is for the Web2 social that we're using right now, right? So I'm curious, like, do you think it like like in terms of adoption of like NFTs and kind of like like evolving this like kind of social media evolving forward, do we need to count on like Instagram or Twitter to adopt like NFT profiles or cover photos and avatars for more NFT assets to be displayed? Like how do we resolve the I guess the dilemma right now that we're seeing is like there's like very limited space for people to display and show their NFTs or use that to social besides PFP. Like I'm curious, how do you see this to be addressed either by the current Web2 social giants, or are you seeing any innovative solutions out there that could solve the kind of the display issue?
I actually think we're probably the closest to it right now. In that we've you almost want to be able to develop internal NFT chains that you don't need to set up wallets or cryptocurrency with, or like they don't need to be affiliated with it. And so, like, if for example, if there was almost something that existed like pseudo off chain internal to Instagram, that way somebody who doesn't really know anything about it can have their own kind of like individualized photo or something like that. That kind of like lets them go into like the blockchain realm like with like a foot. They take a step into it without being fully committed to it, and then once they kind of see that there's upsides to it, that there's a degree of like peacocking or individuality or like ownership to it, then it makes it a little bit more palatable for them to kind of set up the wallet and go through the rest of that process. And so if they were to move it outside of that platform, that's where then they would need to go through all of the other steps that we're all kind of familiar with here. But internal to something like Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is, you can set that all up, and that's just going to make it that much easier for people to kind of dive the rest of the way into Web3. And that's what we try to do in big time, right? Like you can collect NFTs with nothing but a credit card and or excuse me, with nothing but a Google account and start playing the game and collecting them. But it's when you want to move them outside of the game and mint them onto a variety of different chains and move them onto OpenSea or whatever it may be, that's where you're going to want to have to set up a wallet and the rest of it.
Yeah, I totally agree with Matt here. I think there's certainly some sort of interdependence between the two worlds, so between Web 2 and Web 3. And I think that all the social media giants that we have in Web 2 right now, as I mentioned, they will definitely need to integrate some sort of Web 3 features in their apps and websites, just to keep up with all the development that is happening right now. On the other hand, Web3 projects like us, we also need Web2 projects in order to be able to accumulate more users and to educate them on the advantages that we have here. talking about the display, I think what I personally really like are these events where you have like a NFT gallery where somebody's showing off his art or the pieces that he owns, combined with live minting. So these kind of social events, I've been to a couple all over Europe. I think that's pretty interesting, and if you haven't, you should definitely check it out if you have the chance. Yeah, besides that, I don't know, maybe also art galleries in the metaverse, but I haven't been to many of these, so can't give too much insights there.
Yeah, very curious. Like, in terms of the metaverses, that you bring, like maybe your NFT assets with, like, what do you, what are some of the popular ones, where like the ones that you personally participate in?
So I think the most popular ones, at least that I know of, were ones that were not in the metaverse but in the real world. And I think there's one called Brightside, which is also a DAO.
Mm.
And what they do is they travel around the world and they go to different cities. And every time they visit a city, they host this large exhibitions with live mints, and the NFTs that will be that can be minted there will have some sort of yeah, just something typical from the city. So it's really something special, and people from the city really get. So yeah, I think that's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And also another, I think, observation with NFT and social is like a lot of the, first of all, NFT projects are token gated, and right now, like, you need to kind of like to pass certain bars to with like NFT holdings to participate in some of the Web3 communities. So I'm curious, do you agree with this tokenized networking modality? How do you think, like, like different communities and societies will evolve from this modality?
Yeah, I can speak a little bit about the token gated method. So, I mean, it really depends on projects. Like, say, we have like membership based like NFT based communities, and I think it makes sense to gate and to use NFTs sort of like a membership card. And I think the model behind it is really that you have bundled the whole package for users to choose. But as the market evolves, I feel like a lot of the time people are tired of this method, and they're actually looking for less friction and like lower entry bar. So that's why we see that in the past few months, um, if if you're an NFT DJ, you might also see this. Is that a lot of projects they switch to free mints, and the same thing with GameFi. We actually see many games on blockchain having like a free to play version as well, or maybe not a separate version, but also but just like you play first and then decide if you want to purchase certain assets, or you might have like a really low like entry price, as low as like one matic for what's the name, like Sunflower Land, right? Something like that. Yeah, Sunflower Land. Yeah. So yeah, I think both models make sense. Like if the community agrees, and for us, EchoVerse also has like a free to play mechanism at the very beginning. You can say grow your crops on the island and to collect them. So if you don't purchase the NFTs, they're just gonna be like a good playable Web2 game where you can um, still enjoy a lot of the gameplay. And once you buy the island NFT, that's when things can actually go on chain and you can interact with your friends to visit each other's island. So I would call it that the island NFTs can unlock the premium features and to make the game experience better. And it's the player's choice. Like, we are not forcing them to buy anything, and the friction is still relatively low. So that's how I view it. And I think as we move forward, we're gonna see more and more like free to play or like free to mint projects, and those projects are mainly gonna profit from the royalties, and that's how they're gonna work.
Yeah. Any other speakers want to comment on this?
Yeah, I would love to. So I agree with a lot of points that were just mentioned. From my point of view, or from our point of view, from ShowMe's view, token gated communities definitely make sense because it makes the clubs that we have more unique and more exclusive, but also adds a certain amount of value to the NFTs sold, and also utility, of course. And owners can communicate with other buyers or creators, and in some cases, as a stakeholder, have also have influence on the further development of a project, kind of similar to common stock of big companies. I think in our case, token gated clubs will definitely remain part of our platform in the future. But for others who want their clubs to be more open and also just to decrease like the friction and have more easy points of access, we also offer other types of thresholds that do not require the holding of token.
Yeah, it's I think a good way to kind of accommodate a few different user mentalities there. Yeah, if anyone, any speakers want to comment on kind of social and NFT, feel free. If not, I would also love to open this up to our listeners today to ask questions. Yeah, if you have any questions to our speakers, want to share your thoughts on NFT's value in the bear market besides arts and collectibles, feel free to request a mic.
While we're, I guess, kind of waiting for people to ask any questions if they have any, I think we kind of took a slightly different perspective to like gated NFT communities, in that we want a lot of players inside of big time, and we want everybody to do it. And so we kind of viewed it not as like a gateway to get into the club, and more of like a way of like showing off almost hierarchy within it. So we wanted everybody to play, and we wanted like a ton of people inside of it, and we made it pretty easy to download and play and enter the community. And MMO games are kind of unique in that they have huge player bases, and it's pretty easy to access, but there is a degree of like, social hierarchy that comes from the game, and then being able to show that off. And that's how we incorporated NFTs into it. We really do think that like the more people that play or interact inside of NFT communities, the stronger they are, and the more kind of robust the faith will be in terms of blockchain and using those NFTs. And then a barrier to that is going to just kind of slow down that transition of Web 2 people into Web 3.
Yep, absolutely. And I think it depends on, I think, what Bobo was saying about like different social graphs and like different contexts, like where some you want things to be more gated and kind of more interest focused, and in like a broader ecosystem or like more general platforms, having a more of a free, like lower entry barrier is also important. Yeah, I guess like for me, I have like one last question on the kind of financialization of NFT, and seeing it being used as like collaterals for borrowing, lending, and fractionalization. in this, like, like as we're talking about this like today in this current market environment, I'm curious, like if you've tried it out like yourself, and what do you think of like NFT-fi as a direction?
Yeah, I think this virtual is really interesting, because if we believe that NFTs as a whole asset class will grow, to go up, it just doesn't really sort of interest me, right? But we already have like NFT-Fi, we already have like BenDAO, we already have all these like JPEG. We have a ton MetaStreet, a ton of these like NFT lending borrowing protocols. But I just think like in the bear, there's just like not much like interesting things going on besides for like Abacus, right? And CDAR, they're doing buy now pay later. So now you can buy your board ape in different installments if you wanted to. Otherwise, strongly would advise against that. But I think if you look at the DeFi summer, the biggest reasons for I think a lot of the tokens taking off was that a huge amount of leverage was injected into the system. So I think come next bull run, like now people have a way to sort of leverage and speculate even more on their NFTs. So they could go maybe like they anticipate an airdrop. They let's say they uh, stake their ape as collateral and borrow like another ape, another like 30 ETH to buy like a mutant, right? Because like a mutant and an ape like gets you more drops for something. Like that's entirely possible. But I just feel like as of now, like fractionalization has been here since what, like 2020, but it hasn't really taken off, right? I just don't think like this sector, it's like a necessary intersection between DeFi and NFTs, but it's not like I think radically like game changing.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on this?
Yeah, I also agree with Boba. So I think it definitely comes with certain risks, and including sudden downturns in the cryptocurrency market and smart contract exploits and regulatory crackdowns. And I think although many of these platforms like NFT-Fi or Pine Protocol or whatever are audited, an audit doesn't guarantee safety, and it only points out that the errors in the platform's code as far as the auditor can spot. And I don't want to be the fully pessimistic one here. So here's what I'm going to tell you. So I think I will still continue to follow the projects. Like I said, like NFT-Fi and Pine Protocol and Fluid NFT, I think is another one, and definitely look forward to future developments of it. However, for now, I still see it as rather risky to enter and borrow and lend money at this point in time.
Yeah, for sure. I think both like NFT and like a lot of this like kind of a marriage between NFT and DeFi itself is it's extremely like volatile right now, given the market, and also like with regards to these like more so like financialization of assets. In my opinion, it needs to be built around like more concrete economies where like real like services and products and utilities for it to be more sustainable, like I guess like direction moving forward. And that's exactly why we're gathered here today to discuss for NFTs, like in terms of its utility, use cases, different ways, different vines that it can develop, like how it can continue to grow as a sector. And we're hearing a lot of interesting, I think, different directions, and also promising signals from the speakers today, that there are like definitely still growth engines and points that we can take a look at in the NFT space. Yeah, so thank you all for coming today. I really like enjoy like a lot of discussions and bouncing off ideas on NFTs and like gaming and in like in POAP and social and all that. Yeah, any last few words the speakers want to share with our listeners today?